got any mail today. Let's see. Oh, yes. Letter from Herodotus, the history hunter. This must be important. Discover the story of William Cushing in slavery. It sounds like a very interesting case. I think the first thing to do in this case is to go back to Scituate, Massachusetts, where William Cushing lived. I think we'll start the search from there. Alright, so I've entered Scituate, Mass now. So I've got to be getting close. Alright, that's good to know. It's the Scituate Historical Society. They put up signs. Seems like they're as interested in history as me. Oh, what's this building? Yeah, looks like a good case for another episode. This is great. This is it. It says, yeah, 1976 is a bicentennial year. Cushing Memorial State Park, site of the final resting place of the famed jurist William Cushing, appointed a circuit judge under the Crown. He sided with the Patriots during the Revolution and was appointed to the Massachusetts Supreme Court when independence was declared. He later became Chief Justice and wrote the landmark opinion declaring slavery illegal in that state, appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court as Associate Justice by President Washington. Wow. He served until 1810, declining appointment as Chief Justice due to advanced age and health. Well, I know from a little research I've done so far that not only Chief Justice Cushing, a judge right before the American Revolution, all the other judges that were appointed to the Crown sided with the British. Cushing had the guts to side with the Patriots. He was the only one. Here's another placard. William Cushing, 1732-1810, Chief Justice of the Massachusetts Superior Court from 1775 to 1789, first Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court to be appointed by George Washington, nominated in 1796 to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but his health forced him to decline this post. His name will shine brightly in the struggle for human freedom, for it was his charge to the jury in the case of Quaco the slave, which resulted in the first legal abolishment of slavery in Massachusetts and in the nation. I think the idea of slavery is inconsistent with our own conduct and constitution, that there can be no such thing as perpetual servitude of a natural, rational creature. William Cushing, Worcester, Massachusetts, 1783. Yes, here we are, Cushing Memorial State Park. This is a good sign of preserving history. Your project wood chip donation dump here, please. Hopefully the scout's going to do something to preserve his gravesite. It looks like it's right up ahead. To Chief Justice Cushing, his home burned down, and unfortunately it burned down with all of his papers in his library after his death. So much of that's lost, unfortunately, but there's still enough to piece together. Just got to dig a little harder. Yep, good. Looks like the Boy Scouts have cleaned up the site here a bit. It's quite an old stone wall. Probably none of those trees were there before. Trees are always dangerous in cemeteries because they can come down and destroy the stones, which are in themselves folk art from a lost time. Beautiful carvings in New England, gravestones of story in themselves. This is excellent work. This site has been cleaned up very, very well. It's the last time the history hunter was here. And here's his gravesite, William Cushing. I don't know exactly where his home was in relation. Usually cemetery is not too far off. These are probably some of his other family members. Perhaps that's Cushing, I don't really know. These must have been some of his children. Ah yes, that's one of those old colonial stones. The urn serves as a vessel to hold the remains. Ah, here's another one. Okay, well he died in 1757. That explains the British flag. He had been fighting the colonial wars. In 1757, he was still involved fighting the French in the French and Indian Wars. Maybe that's where he died. Well, this is a good start. Looks like I might have to hit the libraries and the internet to find out more about this case that he did to make Massachusetts a free state. First one in the country. So Vermont may claim to be the first state to stop slavery, but they didn't become a state until the year 1791, although they did earlier write slavery into their constitution. Primary evidence is evidence that occurred at the time of the event. Newspaper articles, letters that the people wrote, photographs, recordings, things of that nature. Secondary evidence is evidence that happened, a year later they write a story about it. 20 years, 200 years later they write a story about it. Books, movies, etc. Sources in either case have to be analyzed and interpreted by whoever it is. People have personal biases. Sources may conflict with one another. You have to read all the evidence and decide for yourself. One of the first things I did is I went to the library and I searched JSTOR, which is has scholarly articles that you can use in history papers and other scholarly writings that you may have. This is one thing that I found there. In the story of William Cushing, to Quack Walker, he was a slave belonging to a James Caldwell, and he was promised his freedom when he reached 25 years old. But Caldwell died, and his wife remarried a man by the name of Nathaniel Jennison. Nathaniel Jennison became his master, and at 28, Quack Walker had enough, and he fled to his former master's son's house, and he worked for them for money. Jennison recaptured Walker and he beat him severely, and Walker decided to sue him for damages. And the jury found that Walker was free and gave him damages. Jennison appealed this case, and all the appeals eventually ended up in the courtroom of, you guessed it, William Cushing. When Cushing spoke to the jury, he reminded them that of what the Constitution said, that they have solemnly bound themselves to each other with this. And what it states is that all men are born free and equal, and that every subject is entitled to liberty, and to have it guarded by the laws as well as his life and property. So in the Quack Walker case, it became clear that a slave owner in Massachusetts would not win any cases against his slaves in the state of Massachusetts. And by the 1790 census, no more slaves existed in Massachusetts. Although William Cushing did go on to be in the Superior Court of the entire country, really the Quack Walker case is probably the most important case that William Cushing ever served on.